There we are. Get this tweeted out. There's that. And all right, we're ready to roll here. Hello there, Hawkeye fans, and welcome to the Hawk Fanatic Rapid Reaction Podcast here on HawkFanatic.com. I'm your host, Rob Howe. It is about 3:35 p.m. Central Time on New Year's Day. Happy New Year to everybody. You'll see if you're watching on the YouTube stream, driving in his car is former Hawkeye running back Jordan Canzeri. We hope to be joined soon by Jovan Johnson. He'll hop in here when he can. Hopefully before we're done here, we may lose Jordan as well. He's driving through some of the upstate New York woods. I know that area well. My mom lives back there, but Happy New Year, Jordan. I wish we were talking about a better outcome here, but Iowa finishes up the season at 10-4, still a 10-win season. We'll get into this a little bit later. I want to start this on a positive note and just relay a story from the pandemic back in 2020. I was on a walk in a local park here, and I see this guy doing individual like sprints and like pass rush drills and like working on his pass rush moves. I'm like, who the hell is that? It's Joe Evans. And I see him working out during the pandemic by himself. Obviously, we're all freaked out and not wanting to be in groups. He's out there getting work done. I think he had 4 sacks today, Jordan. What a great career, man. 6 years. I think he finished 6th in Iowa history in sacks. Former walk-on linebacker. Just a great story. We've had a lot of them in Hawkeye history, and I think he's right up there.
Yeah, last time I was in Iowa City for the senior game, Illinois, I got an opportunity to see him and exchange words. And yeah, just a great guy, hard worker. I think they said he was tied 6 now in history, 6th or 5th in sacks. But yeah, just to see a leader, a competitor, just another great story from just an Iowa guy rising up the ranks and working hard to become, a true asset. It's just always good to see.
Yeah, and I thought the defense for the most part gave up more rushing yards than I think they wanted to. But it's a different dynamic, isn't it, Jordan? When you have a running quarterback, and I think that was part of the issue today. You have another guy to account for. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. We faced one of the better, they all they did was talk about that kid's accolades and his, how great he was high school, and you can definitely see that kid is gonna be, someone to reckon with in the SEC next year, even. But yeah, it's a hard thing to kind of adjust on the fly. A kid that only played 4 games and on and off, and you don't have a lot of film on to come out there and to show you
Okay, we lost Jordan there. I think we're still live on the YouTube. I paused the recording on Zoom. Um, let's see here. This here he's back. Okay, let me get this going. Unpause. All right, we're back. We got him back. He must have hit a good pocket here in the woods in the Catskill Mountains. Yeah, just continue what you were talking about Nico. I won't try to pronounce his last name. Maybe you can pronounce it.
Ragaini.
No, the other Nico, the quarterback for
Raggy.
Tennessee. I can get
Oh,
Raghini. The other guy I can't get.
Yama Guli. I don't know. Yeah, that was a tough. That's a tough last name for sure.
Yeah, but just, you obviously could, I mean, he's a five-star recruit. Tennessee paid a lot to get him. Alabama, Georgia, everybody wanted him. And you can see why. 6'6" with that type of athletic ability and skill set. Just poise impressed me today. You figure a true freshman starting his first game in a bowl game against one of the country's best defenses. I think his poise was the most impressive thing for me.
Yeah, no, very complete quarterback. So again, I can definitely tell he's going to be somebody to watch in the future. But yeah, definitely was a lot more effective offensively than I thought Tennessee was going to be today. But again, it's tough where we get, being put in positions of having to constantly be on the field and, a pick six, fumble, and giving them the ball right in the 2-3 yard line. It's a lot to deal with. So, it's tough, but the defense has played amazing all year, and it's definitely a sad way to see him go out.
Yeah, no doubt. Not the way you want to end the season. The Hawkeyes this year played three ranked teams, Penn State, Michigan, and Tennessee, and were outscored 92-0 in those three games, three shutouts. So it's obvious that the offense needs to be addressed. We've known that. We've talked about it throughout this season. It's somewhat of a miracle that this team won 10 games with as inconsistent as this offense has been. That that play that was the interception in the end zone, Jordan. How deflating is that when you're in a game, you got an opportunity, offensive chances this year have been sparse. How deflating is that when you have a play like that, when you're going in at worst to maybe get a field goal?
Very deflating. It's regardless on offense to turn the ball over is a deflating moment, but to know that offense has been a struggle, but then to get the ball down in the red give the ball back, it hurts. It hurts, but I know it wasn't really something looming them going forward because they're used to adversity, used to having to,
Apologize to the YouTube viewers that Jordan is cutting out on us a few times. I'll be able to edit this out on the podcast, but for the YouTube viewers, I'm sure you're a little frustrated, and I apologize for that. Sometimes it's hard to bring these together, and we wanted to do something right after the game. And I'm not sure where Jovan went, but hopefully Jovan tells me he'll be on in 20 minutes. We may try to restart this thing as we go. Apologies. Let me pull up the box score here and read some of the down notes from today. Marco Linnaeus came in and ended up rushing 6 times for 51 yards, 8.5 yards a carry. So gave a spark off the bench. He was 2 for 7 throwing the ball for 4 yards with a sack involved there as well. Going down the list here, Caleb Brown, 3 of 6 catches for 39 yards. Overall for the game, we'll get the team statistics here. We got Jordan back. We got him back.
Oh, geez, apologize.
No, you're good. Okay, we're back recording on the podcast side of things here and not on the YouTube part of things here. But I was just reading off some statistics there. What did you see in terms of Tennessee being able to run the ball? I know we talked a little bit before about the Tennessee quarterback having the ability to run and having to deal with that. But it just seemed like Iowa's defensive line wasn't in the right place at times, getting, out of their gaps. What did you see with Tennessee being able to run the ball?
Again, I mean, they were a lot more effective on the ground than I expected, or if anybody really expected going into the game. But it's hard unless to really like watch the film and break it down. But it could be misassignments and little things that turn into the big plays. But again, it's just tough when you are on the field for such long periods of time. And again, realizing that with not having much film on, that this quarterback you're now facing is a very mobile athlete, that now when they started to do a lot more of their zone read games, it's just that much harder to defend because you truly do have to acknowledge for the quarterback. So yeah, it was definitely just more than they probably expected, but still a surprise.
I don't want to dump on Deacon Hill because he was put in this position probably before he was ready, based on Cade McNamara's injury. He came here and didn't think he'd end up playing this year. He's just struggled, Jordan. And I don't know. I didn't think the offensive line helped him a ton today. But there were drop passes. I know a lot falls on him and ultimately is the quarterback, but I thought it was more than that today. The guys around him, I don't think helped as much as they could have.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing where, there were moments where even the announcers, sometimes they just say stuff to fill in gaps. But, I at least agreed a few times that it did seem that Hill went and looked through his progressions and nobody was open. Even with them having losses to their secondary, they still were playing and performing very well against our own offensive weapons. And yeah, there are moments where there was a first down that Brown dropped, which that was major early. Oh, excuse me. And then same is later where we might not have gotten the first down, but it would have definitely put us in a better position in punting the ball, and Brown dropped another one. And there was, certain other ones with timing and again, it's not always easy to pinpoint just on one person, but there were plays that had to be made and that could have been made, and some that should have even been made that if you don't capitalize on against a good team, you get, outcomes like today.
And the interception in the end zone was on him. He stared that receiver down. The safety saw it and jumped. They had the receiver bracketed pretty much, and he just jumped that route. It seems like Deacon has a tendency to lock on his receivers sometimes, and the defense sees that. Is that something you've noticed?
I mean, Yeah, like there's a lot of things again, but it's just moments like that again. It makes a huge difference if you don't play effectively and smart, where we had guaranteed points that we gave away, and that's detrimental, especially that early in the game and how our style of gameplay is as well. But yeah, there's like as we kind of touched on, there's at least hope that there's a lot returning for next year, and I know they're going to be real hungry, especially on the offensive side.
What did you think of Marco Inez, the true freshman, when he got in there? What did you think he brought to the table?
Definitely showed that he at least is part running back. Like he ran gritty, got big first down conversions. Even that last fourth down conversion that he tried to throw it to Ragaini. It was the right read, but just a little behind. So again, it's at least showing glimmers of hope, where he definitely, with what they showed on TV, they had he had a very impressive high school year with 6,000 plus yards and like 70 plus touchdowns. So, you never know what he can turn into as well. So, bright future at least. And I can't remember the name as well, but I'm pretty sure this one kid I was looking at. We got a good um, quarterback commit, and then again, McNamara coming back. So there definitely is a lot of positives for the offense. Looking forward to next season, but again, just wish that for themselves first and foremost, and for the team, and just wish that they could have been a little bit successful today, just for themselves to end on a better note.
Yeah, James Rezar is the quarterback you were thinking about from Jacksonville, Florida, and he's kind of a guy that can use his legs as well. How much do you think Iowa needs with the new offensive coordinator to maybe get, I think Cade has that ability, but there's a little bit of a question mark just because he's coming off injury. But the ability to have a quarterback that's able to move.
It's everything. You see, even throughout college football, the best quarterbacks or dual threat. Lamar Jackson for the NFL, I think might win the MVP, dual threat. It's just when you're in scenarios that nothing else works, you just got to trust your person to just be an athlete, and they can somehow get a 30-yard run where, I was blessed to have that out of CJ Beathard. There were countless times that he got us out of a pinch with his feet, and was just a person who was willing to fricking put his body on the line for first down. It's when you have that, it just an offensive coordinator in high school big kid, it doesn't matter the plays you call. If you have somebody who's special and they can make you right all the time, it's definitely a blessing to have.
Um, you were on a team that had a rough bowl game. In the Rose Bowl, you guys had a great season, made the Big Ten championship, lost a heartbreaker, and I think it was the Iowa State game where CJ had that big run for you guys. I was in my mental Rolodex. I'm thinking, what were some big plays? And CJ's run in Ames was certainly big. But what do you do to kind of move on from what Iowa experienced today? I know it's the end of a season, it's a new team next year, but you got to flush this one, even moving into off-season workouts, into spring ball. What do you take out of this? How do you process this to be a positive, or at least make it a positive moving forward?
Well, I mean, I would just say with most things in life, it's just the perspective. Like you can end this bowl game and look into next season like, wow, like can't believe that happened. And how good are we gonna be? Like, can we really, asking all the wrong things? But I remember when we faced Tennessee and we got pulverized in the Tax Slayer Bowl. That was the same thing that I remember thinking, was seeing the brothers of mine that own that was their very last game in an Iowa uniform, to see how upset they were, some crying, some just devastated, some, it just, you can tell it really hurt. That was motivation for myself. And I know a lot of other guys at the same as well. When you see a brother of yours like hurt like that, you want to make sure that like your group that you're now next year going to be ending with, or just whoever else is on the team with you, that doesn't have to face that. So it's just taking the right type of tools and applying them to like see what can really be used as motivation going forward. But they got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, a lot you mentioned, a lot of guys coming back on defense. Luke Lachey coming back next year, which I think will be a huge bonus for Iowa. When you look at this, now that you've had like the season to look at what Iowa did offensively this year, Jordan, what would you hope to see from the new guy coming in? We talk about complementary football. What kind of offense can complement what Iowa does? Because I think Iowa football still is what it is. You want to have a defense, you want to have a good special teams, but you got to get more out of the offense to complement that. Just generally, we could talk about specifics at a different time, but just generally, what type of offense do you think can complement what Iowa does in the other two phases?
Well, I would say what even showed with the Ohio State game is even not just having a phenomenal quarterback. It's the hardest position for a reason, so don't get me wrong, but when you don't have a offensive weapon like a receiver, you can literally throw it up and pray to and they come down with it. It's really hard to be effective because again, if you're a quarterback, but every time you look up, every single receiver you have is completely smothered, there's not much you can do. So I think what I would love to personally see, whether it's a transfer or heck, even if it's a 1.5 star like I was, take a chance on a kid to get some recruit or freshman or again a transfer who's just a 6'3" plus receiver who is willing to just go up and for the ball. And I'm fine with the game we play, running the ball, being effective, play action, slow game, wearing teams down, but having the ability to still do otherwise by having weapons where if we do have to go more spread, it's within the receivers and just having a lot more effective individuals in that position group where we had some really talented guys, but again, were they individuals who could truly separate and you could truly throw a 1v1 ball up to. So that's something I think could go a long way because we still have those pieces. Otherwise, I think, as you said, Lachey coming back, McNamara will be back. We got a stable of running backs, so there's little things that we could add that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you think about it, Charlie Jones walked on from Buffalo, ended up coming to Iowa, and then ended up at Purdue, unfortunately. But there are receivers out there. There are guys that can help. Reese Vanderzee from Central Lyon here in Iowa. He's a bigger, taller wide receiver, so maybe he can help in that area as well. I think it'd be remiss of us, Jordan, and we've talked about him a ton the last 2 years doing this podcast, but it was his last game today, and he leaves as college football's all-time leading punter. He broke a record that was set in 1938 by some guy from Michigan State. I think they were still wearing leather helmets back then, but I'll let you have the floor here just on what Tory Taylor's meant to this program and, how amazing this has been from a guy who never even saw an American football game until he came here his freshman year.
Just again, another beautiful story where it's the one thing that it's funny that people will say, which is very true. Like you don't really notice things until like you have actually have reason to look out for them. Like I didn't know much about Iowa at all when I was in high school or if anything, but once I became a Hawkeye and came out there and came back home, I noticed so much Iowa around me, license plate with the Iowa, logo on it, just a bunch of little things. And then just being a part of it all, when you see alumni doing well and people that are still at the university doing well, it just has that, sense of family and everything to it. But I am somebody who just also argues that you can't look at another university and find as many like cool stories other than Iowa, or individuals that are just playing just groundbreaking, just doing amazing things. NFL one position group having four of the top five tight ends. Caitlin Clark, you don't even need to go into how amazing she is, and the children's hospital. And just so when you just get more and more like cool stories like Tori Taylor's, and as we even said, like Evans earlier, you know, just adds on to just really being proud to, be a Hawkeye, and to just experience more student athletes continue to do.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll see what this team does here. We're waiting on, the offensive coordinator hire. Not the way Brian Ferentz wanted to go out. He was on the staff when you were here. And, you know, I don't know, I look back, Jordan, at like 2019 when there were pieces there. Nate Stanley was in it, a third year starter by then. You had Amir Smith Marset, you had Brandon Smith. There were weapons on that team, and they looked great. They tore USC apart in the Holiday Bowl to where they are now. People have asked me how it got to this point. And I know, Brian has a good offensive mind. What do you think happened? How did they get to this point where it was what we saw today?
I mean, it's just a lot where I show otherwise. I just still, regardless of me being biased, but I personally just feel that if Cade, if Lachey, if all didn't get hurt, like we could have just had a incredibly different season. Where again, certain play calls were made that were effective, but thrown, or again, we just let certain gaps in the offensive line where quarterback gets hit while trying to throw. Like there's just so much. There's so much going on. And then at the same time, to be honest, yeah, there are some play calls that, I disagreed with. But, you know, I do feel bad that Brian Ferentz had to face what he had to face this year, especially again when we had incredible chess pieces that early on were taken away that would have been really fun to be able to watch and see. So, I'm obviously very curious to see who gets the job, but I thought Brian had to take a lot more on than what someone else normally would have to in that position.
Yeah, no doubt. And got to tie some things together this year in the offseason. Offensive coordinator, get Cade McNamara healthy, Luke back and healthy. But like you said, I think other than Rusty Feth on the offensive line should have everybody back. But yeah, need to address that receiver position, no doubt, and try to get some guys that can make some plays down the field. We saw that today in a bunch of bowl games. Wisconsin had some guys that were like, wow, where'd this guy come from in their game? So that's certainly what we need. All right, Jordan, I'm going to let you roll. I appreciate you doing this again this year. Maybe we'll get something together here in the off season after the offensive coordinator's hired, spring ball, do something like that. But really appreciate your time and thanks for doing this, man. And I'm going to give Jovan a few more minutes, and if he doesn't come on, I'm going to watch the Rose Bowl.
I know, yeah. Hate to say it, but at the same time, gotta rep the Big Ten. But yeah, need Michigan to get this win to look good. But no, happy to do it. Can't wait to see what we do next. And again, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Thanks again, Jordan. Be well, my friend.
All right, you as well. See you.
All right, if you're on the YouTube feed, I'm going to give Jovan a couple minutes here and see what's going on. I apologize. This was a little choppy. That's the nature of doing this sometimes, but let's see. Let's see. This is not good. I'll be able to edit this out on the podcast, thankfully. Yes.
Hey, hey.
There he is. I just let Jordan go. So you're up. We're doing it different today. He was having some difficulties with his connection. So you ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, let's bring you in. And now we're joined by Jovan Johnson. You heard Jordan Canzeri's feedback on today's Citrus Bowl. We now have Jovan here. Jovan, I mean, a lot of what we saw this year, right? The defense kind of did what it could while it could. Although I thought Tennessee ran the ball a little bit better than I would have expected today. But again, just tough to win without an offense that's a threat.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you play defense and you're on the field for a majority of the game, it's tough. And when you're playing against a Tennessee team, Tennessee does some things that are unorthodox, the way they spread people out and make you have to defend every inch of the field. So it kind of opens up the run game. And then, you know, a lot of teams, when you play that too high shell and that's your predominant defensive scheme against a team like Tennessee, they can bleed you a little bit because you don't have anybody in the box to account for the quarterback. So it makes it a little bit tougher. But defensively, I thought they got some stops. They played fairly decent, but you know, once you start to bleed, it's hard to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, no doubt. And the interception in the end zone early was just was a backbreaker, especially when you know your offensive opportunities are going to be limited here. I asked Jordan this. Seems like Deacon sometimes gets locked on a receiver, or you can see where his eyes are. On that play, it looked like the corner was behind. I think it was Nico. And then the safety was underneath, and it almost became a bracket coverage because he read Deacon's eyes. Is that what you saw? What did you see on that play?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times down in the red zone, you know, defensive backs are being taught, especially the safeties, to read the quarterback's eyes. And when he looks a certain direction, to buzz into that window so that throws out there. And then it being a tight window throw, I mean, that's a difficult throw to make for anybody. But at the end of the day, you know, down in the red area probably wasn't the greatest call. But, you know, as a quarterback, you got to be able to look defenders off before you come back to where you want to go with the ball. Like you said, if you're locked on a receiver, you know, 10 times out of 10, that ball's going to get deflected or something bad's going to happen because the DBs are being taught to read your quarterback's eyes.
Yeah, no doubt. And I didn't think Deacon played well, Jovan, but I didn't think his receivers helped him. I mean, there were drops. The offensive line had some breakdowns where he got pressure before he could even do anything. It was more than him today. Would you agree?
100%. I mean, football is the ultimate team game. If one area is lacking, then you can see it in other areas. So I mean, the quarterback wasn't great, but there's other factors in the game that didn't play well as well.
What did you think of the young kid that came in, Marco Linnaeus, when he came in? I think it was after the pick six, I think, when the game was kind of out of hand. What did you see from him, though? What did he bring when he got into the game?
I mean, when he first got in the game, the first play, they went empty. He diagnosed the receivers weren't there. He tucked it and ran. I think that's the missing piece. That's one thing that Deacon doesn't do enough of, especially when they go into those empty formations, is trusting that if you have the ability to get a positive gain of yardage, take it instead of forcing it when you don't have it. And I thought the young kid came in, made some nice runs. He diagnosed things well. I mean, I ended up turning the game off after his first series, but I thought in his series I was impressed. I mean, he's the type of kid that can make some things happen when all else breaks down. I like the fact that he's willing to use his feet and not just stand in the pocket.
Yeah, no doubt. And to your point, Jovan, there was a play that Deacon did get. He picked up a first down, I think, on one of the runs when he realized nothing was there. I just think he needed to do more of that. And I don't know if that he was coached to stay back there and not run or what, but it just seemed like teams were willing to give that up, and Iowa didn't take it throughout, a lot of at least the second part of this season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things as a quarterback where you got to have that clock in your mental makeup to know, like, if it's not there, if read one or read two is not there, and you have the ability to escape to make it a positive play instead of standing in there and taking a sack. I mean, I think that helps the offense stay on schedule because it's no different than just checking it down to the running back and getting a 3-4 yard gain instead of a 8-yard loss.
I asked this of Jordan as well, Jovan, and we've talked about this a lot, some things that you would like to see Iowa do on offense. Now's this clean slate, right? They've made the decision. The athletic department made the decision to move on from Brian Ferentz. We can debate all we want about, how much was his fault, how much was injuries, all that. The fact of the matter is Iowa is moving on offense. I think we can agree that the foundation is going to be Coach Kirk Ferentz's offense. And I have no problem with play action, running the football, not going slow, huddling up, all that. That can work. We see it work all over the country. What elements would you like to see in this new offense for Iowa, knowing that you're still going to rely on defense and special teams and complementary football?
I mean, I would like to just see a little bit more multiple in the approach, going out, recruit some receivers that can run, that can stretch the field, that can open up the play action, for the tight ends across the middle of the field and things like that. But, just being able to take some more shots down the field and then utilize your tight ends in ways that, aren't the traditional, like the two tight end sets, that we're used to seeing Iowa get into. Maybe using a tight end like Luke Lachey that can split out in the slot, motion them in, maybe have them crack down on the defensive end and pull a tackle around, just some different variations of the scheme to make it look different to the other teams. I think that a lot of times teams have started to get comfortable with what Iowa do offensively, and they started to try to take advantage of it. And if it's not there, typically all things break down when they're that first or second reason out there. So then they start, trying to do too much, and it overcompensates for what you want to get done.
We touched on this a little bit earlier when we first started talking. What did you think of Iowa's defense today? I know they were on the field a ton, but didn't get the takeaways this season. That seemed to be the one thing, and maybe that's the offenses that play against them not taking as many chances. Did you see that? It seemed like, especially when teams got a lead on Iowa, they really went conservative.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, teams understand that Iowa is going to protect the deep ball. They're not going to give up the big plays. So they're comfortable with taking the 5-yard hitches, the 5-yard slants, trying to make a 7-8 yard gain on a 5-yard throw, and making you have to come down and tackle. They're content with that, especially knowing that the offense is struggling and not scoring points. Teams aren't going to force the ball down the field and try to make plays. They're going to stay on schedule and make you have to try to score points to keep up. And unfortunately, that doesn't work in Iowa favor when the offense isn't scoring as much.
It was the last time we got to see him. We've seen him. We've talked about him a lot, Jovan. I think it's appropriate and appropriate. Tory Taylor today became the all-time leading punter in yardage in college football history. He broke a record from 1938. Some dude at Michigan State when they were wearing leather helmets, I think. Just speak a little bit to what he's meant to this program and how big was he this year when you don't have an offense to get to 10 wins. I mean, he was as much the MVP of this team as anybody, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be a close call between him and Cooper DeJean, but I mean, Tory Taylor, his impact on the game for the whole year, I mean, for throughout his career, but just this year in general, I mean, he's been the catalyst for the success that they've had collectively because of his ability to just change field position. I've seen numerous times where the offense is backed up and he's punting the ball from the 10-yard line to the other team's inside their 20. Like that's a major field shift for the defense when you are able to do that. A lot of punters are punting the ball somewhere around midfield, and he's putting them backed up inside the 20. So, he's as much as the MVP of the team this year than anybody because of his value of being able to change the field and that and basically and apply that hidden yardage that people don't really see.
Yeah, I should clarify my comment. Single season punting record from 1938. So I guess just generally before I cut you loose, Jovan, to enjoy the rest of your New Year's and these playoff games, how do you feel as an alum, as a player, where the program is at right now going into next year after what you saw this year? How are you feeling about 2024 since we hit a new year?
I'm always, as an alumni and someone who played under this current staff and knowing what they bring to the table, I'm always optimistic. I think that they have the ability to continue to win 10 plus games in a season and continue to win the Big Ten West, and put themselves in a predicament to win the Big Ten and possibly with the 12 team playoff format, be able to get in that 12-team playoff. But obviously there's some things that need to get addressed. Obviously the quarterback situation is one of them. Getting some explosive receivers is another. You have a good problem in the running back room, and then you continue to build on the offensive line. And defensively, they're gonna continue to be successful because the scheme's not gonna change. They're gonna continue to get good defenders. And be able to develop guys into becoming great defenders throughout their careers. That's what they've done in the history of the program, and definitely since Ferentz has been there, is being able to get some overachievers on the defensive side of the ball. But just addressing the offensive issues, hopefully whoever the next offensive coordinator is has a scheme that works. and does some dynamic things on the field for the offense. If they could get the offense figured out, they'd be in national championship contention. So, I mean, I'm always optimistic about the program and where they're headed, especially when you win 10 games without even having a top offense anywhere in the country.
No doubt. I want to let folks know that support for the podcast comes from Systems Unlimited, celebrating 50 years of providing services to people living with disabilities and mental health needs throughout East Central Iowa. A list of their services and upcoming events can be found at sui.org. That is sui.org. You were on, last one I lied. You were on the 2002 team. You guys had a great season, but did not play well in the bowl game. And then you came back the next year and had another good season, got back to a bowl game. You responded to what happened to you guys in the Orange Bowl.
Right.
What did you do, and what can this team do to make sure they can take a step forward off of what happened today going into 2024?
I mean, that Orange Bowl game, we didn't play our best football, but I think we were up against the best team in the nation.
Agreed. I agree with that.
They might not go down in the books as being a national champion, but I thought that USC team was the best team in the nation that year. And they were, I mean, from top to bottom, they were very good offensively and defensively. And we started the game out on the right foot, but we just didn't finish. I mean, I think they had some crazy team speed, and we just couldn't get in a rhythm on either side of the ball. But at the end of the day, we took that one on the chin and came back in the next year saying that we were not going to allow that to happen again. So we were far more prepared than we were in that 2002 game for going into 2003. And I thought, offensively, we were able to do some things that we weren't able to do in 2002. And then defensively, we were able to get off the field a lot more effectively and put our offense back in position to make some plays.
And able to bounce back and beat Florida in the Outback Bowl. And I still remember Ron Zook thinking that Nate Kading was a running back. And I'm sure that helped fuel you guys too. That was disrespectful.
Oh yeah, I mean we didn't let those things blow over too easy. We definitely, anytime you give us some bait, to be able to rile the crowd and rile the troops, just believe it's gonna come back to bite you. So
all right, Jay. Well, I appreciate this again. I've had fun doing this with you guys again this year. Thanks so much for doing it. I told Jordan maybe we can get together after the offensive coordinator's name, maybe in the spring, get an idea, maybe do a spring football update, things like that. But really appreciate you doing this again, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, for sure.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back with some more podcasts on the Hawk Fanatic feed. Stay tuned to that. Please subscribe, give us likes if you would. We appreciate it. Till then, Happy New Year. Man, that was not good.
Oh, my stars, man. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to score. You can't, I mean, turning the ball over inside the red zone and then backed up inside the 10-yard line, like, it's tough. It's tough to beat anybody when that happens.
Yeah, and to your point, and you and Jordan both said the same thing. They got to address the situation at receiver.
Yeah, that's some must. I mean, you think about the teams that we had. I mean, we weren't like super ridiculous, but I mean, we had some pretty darn good receivers. You think about Maurice Brown and C.J. Jones. Then you had Clint Solomon. You had we had some young guys, huh?
Hinkle.
I mean, we had some guys that can win one-on-one, so it was a lot easier to be able to go out there and do some things. And those guys, especially Hinkle and Solomon and CJ, those guys can win a one-on-one and go deep on you.